G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 AM Club. As you can see, I'm down here at McMahon Point, and we've got an overcast day. Got the Opera House in the background, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and a turkey, a turkey, believe it or not, down here just scratching away and passing its time. So what I want to do today is take you through another book summary, as we normally do. And the book summary that I've elected to go through today is entitled The 80-20 Principle by an author named Richard Koch. So it's a bit windy, so I'll try and stay up here out of the buffeting of the westerly breeze and get through this book summary. So the author kicks off the book with an interesting quote where he says that we need to strive for excellence in a few things rather than good performance in many things. Something to think about, something to contemplate. You're better off being really, really good at a few things rather than being average at a lot of things, if you want to stand out and if you want to be a leader in your field. Then the first formal point to come out of this book is where the author talks about the concept that people expect life to be fair and balanced. But the bottom line is, as we get older, we learn very, very quickly that life isn't balanced nor fair. So one of the key learnings from this book is that we need to understand that 80% on average, 80% of the results or thereabout come from 20% of the effort or 20% of the observations. So we need to then, I guess, use this to leverage our focus so that we're putting our effort into the things that are going to deliver us the biggest bang for the buck. So as the author alluded to earlier, they say that things are not linear. They're not fair, they're not balanced, but that's how nature works. Always has and always will. And there's a reason, there's a very, very good reason why human beings stood out in the animal kingdom. Because we are in the best position to be able to make the most of the imbalance. We're able to work together, to collaborate. We're able to plan. We're able to work and to collude with others to try and leverage and bring about the most of the imbalance that life throws us. So the key lesson here is that we need to understand that imbalance is the natural state. It's the natural way things are in life. And we are surrounded by examples of the 80-20 principle. I was interested to find out from this author here that on average, most people have a habitual vocabulary of about 700 words. And those 700 words are used over and over again, and they make up 66% or 2/3 of what we say to others in our daily conversations. The author then goes on to give us a wonderful sort of example where he says that if you put five fish in a bowl, in a fish pond, if those fish are exactly the same size when they go into the bowl, eventually one of those 5 fish will end up being bigger than the other ones. and it's the fish that ends up taking on the advantage from the very early point, and there is a compounding effect of those advantages which lead to further advantages. So it's an important thing to understand, like that, just like a compound interest, advantage also works to add more and more advantage. And for that reason, children who start school at a more advanced age tend to do better than other children. And the reason for that is that they're more able to take advantage of the situation because of their age, their maturity, their ability to make the most of the things that are available to them. So it's important to understand that advantage is something that we can leverage, and we should always try and gain as much advantage as we can in the situations that we can. And the way we gain advantage is by leveraging the priorities, putting our efforts into those things that give us the best return on our investment, because by doing that, we're making the most of the opportunities that are presented to us. The next formal point to come out of this book is that where the author says that the most important aspect of any business is all about optimizing its product range. Once again, I learnt something very new today. I wasn't quite aware of this, because you think that when you go into business, the best thing to do is to try and create a bigger product set and to have more and more products. But the author here says that is wrong, that by doing that, you're actually disadvantaging yourself. You're not setting yourself up for success, but more so that you're setting yourself up for failure. And he gives an example here of the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, where he says that in most businesses, in most observations in life, the top 3 products end up delivering over 50% of the revenues. So it makes sense to focus our efforts as best we can on those products that give us the biggest returns. The other example that the author gives us is a beauty. It's from the example of Apple, from the example of Steve Jobs, and it goes back to 1997 when Steve Jobs returns to Apple to take over the helm during those trying years where it was struggling. I remember when I was working at IBM at one point, Apple almost went out of business and became irrelevant. But to his credit, Steve Jobs came back into the business and realized that you can't be all things to all people. And the first thing he did when he took over the helm and came back in to the fold was that he reduced the product set from 300 products to just 10. So he was able to refocus the business model so that they were able to focus on the things that were going to deliver them the biggest revenue drivers from that point into the future. So it's important, according to Steve Jobs, to have an insane focus and a will to be able to say no. Say no to diversifying, to increasing your product set, and to start simplifying your business. How many times do we go to a Chinese restaurant, for example, and you look at the menu and there are different ways of having duck and chicken and pork and vegetables and rice, and it just goes on and on. But the bottom line is that every time I go to a Chinese restaurant, I end up eating the same sort of meal, and I'm sure that you probably order the same sort of things as well, regardless of how many things are on the menu. So in our lives, according to this author, we really need to start simplifying things. We really need to start focusing our efforts, and to understand that 80% of our joys, of our pleasures, of our results, of our outcomes will only come from about 20% of the things where we put our effort and focus into. So the author goes on to say, and to enlighten us, says that you don't really need to have the exact numbers to get the most out of the 80-20 principle. Your gut will tell you what are the most important things to focus on. And you can hear the wind just building up in the background there. I'm just standing outside of it, trying to reduce the buffeting at the moment. And we'll see how I go. But as you can see, the wind is really picking up. So the sort of examples where we can use the 80-20 principle in our lives is where you can just ask yourself, you know, who are the few friends that I have who generate 80% of the happiness and joy in my life? And as we said, your gut feel will tell you in your work which of your clients that give you the best outcomes. There's plenty of things, regardless of where you are. You can always find examples of where it works best and where it works most. So yeah, this wind is really picking up. What I might do is just go and sit in the car and get blown away. Just bear with me for a moment. Because the wind is coming, it's starting to pelt down now. I'll just take some protection. Oh, there you go, that's a little bit better. But as you can see out there on the harbour, the ferries are struggling, and it's starting to build up, and it's going to be a whacker of a storm. So the big call to action from this book, from this author, is that we really need to focus on quality rather than quantity. We talk about it time and time again, but you know, it is a key principle in success to prioritize the things that you have and the things that you focus on, rather than to be a generalist. You're much better off being a specialist in order to be a leader, as we said, an absolute leader and a gun at what you do. So the bottom line is that we need to spend more time doing the things that matter most to us and to those around us, and to understand that 20% of our effort delivers 80% of the results, and 80% of our effort delivers 20% of the results. So I guess the challenge that we all face is that it's really hard to say no. But if you're not saying no, then you're being distracted, you're being run ragged by the 80% that only deliver 20% of your outcomes. So the last thing you want to be doing is to be staying back late at work, putting in the massive hours and not getting the results and the outcomes that you deserve. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, it's a very windy, wild summer's day here in Sydney on this Sunday afternoon. It looks really windy out there on the harbour, and the last thing you'd want to be on is on one of those ferries out there being knocked about, especially out near the heads, because it's a westerly breeze that's pushing out towards the heads, and it would make for an interesting sort of journey. So thank you very much once again for joining me on this episode. I look forward to coming to you again from a different place with a different message of empowerment, where we get through a book summary, where we get to leverage OPE, other people's experiences, in a way that can help us learn something new, attach the unknown to the known, so we can become better at leveraging our opportunities, solving our problems, and getting on with the things that we need to do. Anyway, Yassas, take care, and I look forward to coming to you again. Yassas, bye.